Welcome to the latest episode of Voices of Fostering, where today I'm joined by Phil. Hello, Phil.
Hello, good morning.
Hi, good morning. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. So, Phil, loads to talk about with you. I hear you've ran a marathon, but we'll get to that. Firstly, how long have you been a foster carer?
Approved November 2019.
Right, okay, so that's getting on for 5 years?
Coming to 5 years.
Yeah.
5 years.
So tell us about what led to that then, Phil. You know, what led to you becoming a foster carer and what did you do beforehand?
Okay, well, beforehand, I was, my previous role before I became a foster carer, I was a business development manager for an American company. But prior to that, I was in the leisure industry for many, many years, sales management, that kind of thing, golf operations management. But the last role I had, I wasn't overly happy where I was, and decided to, if circumstance allowed, to leave that. And as it happened, my partner always worked from home, and we always wanted to make sure somebody was at home for our son, who's autistic. So we just wanted to make sure somebody was always home with him. So she worked from home. I was always out in the field, and it came to the situation where she was offered a role where she really needed to take it. She couldn't turn it down. That meant being out. So I said, okay, I'm not particularly happy where I am. I'll come home for a few months and sort out what I'm going to do next and look after our son. It was just before the pandemic sort of kicked in. So as it happened, just prior to that, so my partner Angela said, well, now's probably a good time. You've always wanted to foster children. Shall we look at it? Okay, that's fine. What do I do? So I went literally to my next door neighbours who are foster carers themselves, and I just said, who do I call? And they just gave me a card, and I called. And then it just went really quickly sort of from there. I say really quickly, 6 months of intense interviews and what have you. So it's a very rigorous process, as it should be. But really interesting, and you learn a lot about yourself. And so then November 2019, we became approved, and that's how we came into it. The motivation for being a foster, I've always wanted to look after children. Since I was very, very young. Always did. Don't know why, just did.
Yeah, so were they sort of conversations that you had with your partner where you might go, you know what, we might do that one day, or
it was always in the back of the mind. One day I'd like to do that. Always wanted to be a dad. Always just did. And circumstance was never quite right. And looking back, it's like, well, there is no right circumstance. If you're going to do it, just do it. But we're wet behind the ears, naive. We just thought everything had to be something perfectly positioned to make it happen. If we did that over again, it would just be a case of, okay, we've got room, let's look after a child as soon as we possibly can, because they need looking after. So that's kind of how it happened. And then that window of obvious opportunity for us appeared, and that's when we just made the call. And the great thing is about the process itself. Sort of the interviews you have, because they are intensive. I mean, they start off with like basically where were you born, and go through everything. By the end of that process, if it's something you can definitely do, and it's the right, because it's all got to be about the child. So can you do this? And you get, by the end of it, you'd know if it's not for you or it is. And obviously, and if there are any other concerns or anything like that, the professionals themselves guide you through it and decide, obviously whether they think you're suitable or not at that particular moment in time. So it was really good, and it's been good ever since.
Yeah, and you said, and we hear this a lot on the podcast, that you learn a lot about yourself through that assessment process. Yeah, what did you feel that you learned? What was it like for you?
Well, I think with me, it was I learned about sort of true motivations about anything I've ever done, to be honest, and where they come from. You learn about yourself in terms of like your own patience levels. You learn about how you look back on events in your life, that it's almost like a form of therapy, because you actually look back on the events in your life and think, actually now I'd probably look at that differently, or I feel differently about it. And you might think you did something right first time around. You think, could have done that better.
Yeah.
But because you don't, you just move on. But when somebody's actually asking you again, you're repeating stuff from, bringing up stuff from 20, 25 years ago, you think, oh yeah, I was young then, or I did that really, really well. I wish I could do that again. You just learn about yourself in a from a different perspective, from an older perspective. I think from especially from things you did when you're like a teenager or your early 20s and stuff like that, or as students and stuff. You just sort of you just look at it all things differently. You look at things more, especially as an adult. You look at things from more of a parental point of view as well.
Yeah.
So it was really good for us.
Yeah. So after that assessment process, you say that was about 6 months, and then presumably you went to panel and you were approved. So what happened after that? How quickly did you have, a children or a child or young person?
After that, just like, okay, what happens there? How fast is it? Like, is it like in an hour? Is it 2 hours? What happened?
And how fast was it?
It was. Well, we had a number of children sort of put forward to us, if you like, as referrals, and I just say yes. I'm that person. I was like, yeah, fine, no problem. Whereas, I'm just like, let's think. Well, there's more. To be honest, there's more the supervisor social workers like, hang on, let's, and that's where the professionals need to step in with me. So I was going, yeah, it's fine. Send them here. It's okay.
Just bring them around. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. 0 to 18, boy, girl, doesn't matter. They need look after. Let's go.
Yeah,
that was kind of me. How I still am really. But it was February when the first placement. We looked after a young boy for a period of time, respite, and then overlapping with that, the first placement came to us going to be here with us longer term. That was in February, so it was a month before the lockdown, and then lockdown started.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to know the child. He's still with us actually. Through lockdown, which was really interesting for both sides, because you just thrown together, and he's only very little and young, and it must have been overwhelming. But it also was really positive because it enabled us all to bond really quickly. So that was a very interesting start to it all. Through lockdown.
So I understand that sport is a big part of your life, isn't it, Phil, and your fostering journey? Yeah. So tell us about that.
Well, it's sport with me. I'm just obsessed with it. I love sport. I've been in the leisure industry pretty much most of my working life, and to sort of say my last role. But I happen to have at the moment three boys in the house. None of them like sport. which is like, it's almost like sort of karma for my obsession and annoyance of people when I was younger with my obsession with sports. Like, no, you're not able to sport. No, in this house now, it's cars, dinosaurs, and steam trains. Things I had no interest in when I was growing up. But these things are set. That's why you grow. You grow as a person, and you foster. But but sport's always just been a huge part of my life, and the recent stuff is obviously the marathon things and bits and pieces.
So tell us about, you ran the London Marathon, didn't you? Tell us about that.
Well, I got round the London Marathon,
You hobbled round.
Yeah, I did in the end. I was training like a good one all the way through the winter, and the excuses are going to come now. We fostered now adopted actually a little baby girl, and she started nursery in January, and I've picked up everything that she's brought back ever since. So the week before I wasn't particularly well, and I managed to get round, but I was never not going to, because it's I was doing it for the NSPCC, and it was done really to alongside one of the children that's with us who really suffers. Self-esteem is just so low, really is. So I say there's no sport. I have him in karate, which is the only sort of thing I can really get engaged in. He's doing really, really well at it. So it was like a case of I'm doing that alongside him, kind of thing, doing that to show that we can do these things, we can achieve stuff. Because I've got a few physical sort of ailments myself that the kids know about, and all that kind of stuff. And so they do see me struggle sometimes. And you just do these things a little bit for yourself as well, for your own sort of pride, obviously, but also just to show them that, you crack on, you can do it, because self-esteem is a low self-esteem is a real big thing with lots of foster children. So you just try and set an example, I suppose, a little bit.
Yeah, so you say you're involved with karate. You say you got one of the children who live in with you involved in karate as well.
Oh yeah, he's
Yeah.
in karate. Yeah, well, that's what he does. I mean, I do a sort of mixed martial arts myself somewhere else, but I'll be bringing him into that one day. But he goes, so I sent him to karate, and it's just worked wonders with his confidence because he's excelling at it. And this is a child that just using whatever metric you want, that he has in his own mind about how successful he is. He never feels successful. But with karate, he can't not do anything but feel successful because the metric they use is obviously a grading system, a belt system. So he knows he's doing well. And it really is. And so trying to help him to translate, sort of translate that to other areas of his life, adjusting those values that he has on things by looking at things slightly different and say, well, look at it this way. And then all of a sudden it looks as though you are really successful. And it's okay. That's, it's all fine. You can do things that way. You don't have to, value things the same as everyone else does, to just anything just to try and help with like these kids' self-esteem because one day they are going to be out in the big bad world and they're adults and stuff. And you've got different goals for the children. I mean, the children in this house are all completely different abilities, different, levels on the education sort of ladder, if you like, and so your expectations for them are different and your hopes for them are slightly different as they get older. But what you do want to do is try and get them out there as confident as they can be as individuals. So just, make some good decisions. That's kind of the main thing from my point of view with all the kids is just to get them prepared.
Yeah.
For adult life. They're not. It's not. They can't avoid. They won't be foster children forever.
What would you say some of the biggest challenges have been maybe of your fostering journey and how have you overcome them? It sounds like, karate has been amazing for overcoming some of those challenges.
It's one thing for one child like those. I mean, there were, the biggest challenges are trying to, I suppose to empathise with the point of views that they put across, the children put across to you. Effectively. Now, what I mean by that is that some things that foster children tend to have issues with attachment. They just depend. They just do. I think whereas obviously birth children that tends not to be the case for obvious reasons. They're with you. They've grown attached and all that kind of stuff. So with attachment issues, and it's so important those first couple of years of life. And then obviously the reasons why they came into foster care, various different reasons and what have you, and traumas that are there that you just don't really know about unless, apart from what's been sent to you on a piece of paper and you read about. You have to try and unpick the rest, or the children gradually let you in on some of the other stuff. But there's some things that the children will go about in their day to day, and to you they're really just mundane issues. Things that you just deal with, no issue at all, not a problem. And you have to very quickly understand that the issues that some of these children have that you think are really mundane are absolutely crucial to them, and usually lead to something that's a bit deeper that they're actually trying to get to. And when we first started, one of the really the real challenges was understanding that. And then, but when you see it a few times, when you actually, you sort of therapeutically go through conversations with children and you get to the crux of the problem a little bit more, you then suddenly realize, okay, so now you know how the mind's working a little bit more. And not all foster children are the same, of course they're not. I mean, so all children come from different circumstances. It's, there's some tough stories out there with what children have gone through, but some children that come into foster care haven't had those kinds of backgrounds. It could be other circumstances. So it's very much the Forrest Gump scenario of a box of chocolates. You just do not know what child or what you're going to get as they walk through the door. You don't, and you can never don't ever judge a book by its cover. Obviously, with anyone, but certainly with a foster child, you just don't know. And the things that you find out can shock you, but you have to sort of therapeutically go through everything with each child on an individual basis, and your parenting style won't be the same with each child. Even I mean, we got three different, well, effectively four different families in this house where the children have all come. Obviously, my own, and then the three children, other children that are currently here, the baby's been adopted, but still from a different family, obviously originally, and the others are as well. So and they're very very different children. So you have to adapt your style of parenting to each one, but also while the other children are looking, think, well, why are you talking to them like that, but you don't talk to me like that? So you see, you have to really balance stuff out. I mean, it's a real balance out, and those are challenges, things like that. I mean, there's tons of stuff I could tell you, but those things that you think should be quite simple. Like, what with a birth child? If for example, my son, if he's only just turned 17, but he does all his cooking for himself now. I've not taught him. I've got to be honest. I'm not taking any credit for that. He just started doing it. I thought, well, okay, fine, great. But if he leaves all his stuff out on the kitchen counter after he's done all that, so I have to clear it away, I'll be like, oh, again. You can kind of be exasperated, and he'll just, oh yeah, sorry, I'll do it next time. But that reaction I had there with my birth son, if I had that reaction with, for example, one of the foster children was here, I'd be having a conversation with that child would be having a conversation with me, and we'd be unpicking stuff for the next 3 hours after that, because it would unlock a part of the personality that they just can't handle being spoken to like that, or whatever it may be. So you have to be really on the ball, and no one's perfect. You get it wrong all the time, and you realise once you've got something wrong, something like, oh no, I'm in for it now a little bit. But then that's fine, because they need obviously to do that to process whatever's going on, and that's the journey. It's
yeah, and of course, when you become a foster carer, with your assessment and everything, there's also a lot of training. You touch there on therapeutic parenting. So is that something that you've done?
Oh yeah. We've done the therapeutic parenting training. We're doing it before anyway. I mean, we and again, when you do that kind of stuff, you look back on your own parenting. If you have birth children, you think, well, which are therapeutic parents naturally or not, and you think you sort of go, okay, yeah. In most cases, yes. That in most circumstances, how would we react to our birth? And that's how we kind of related it initially when we were doing the training. We thought, yeah, okay, that's kind of what we do. And then you learn and think, okay, that could work. Let's try that. But then there's levels within it. You just because it says something in a textbook will work with one child, it doesn't necessarily work with another child. Some children will respond to therapeutic parenting better than others. It's some will respond quickly, not so either.
Well, I suppose it makes you reflect back on the way that you were parented as well.
Yeah.
Which I imagine is an interesting, process.
For the older generation like mine. As we move into the old age, it was a different time. And it was, because obviously then you can go back, you can go even further back and say, well, how are our parents parenting? Because you hear stories from our parents, our grandparents parented them, and so on and so forth. And then even further back than that, then you are getting into like some stuff that just wouldn't happen now, But they thought it was fine, They think, my grandfather used to tell me stories about how his father was with it. And my grandfather was absolutely fine. So no, you didn't do it again. That kind of attitude. And you're like, well, that's not happening. That's not happening now. Things have moved on. So each generation, it does. Things do improve, and I suppose the understanding of children, of parenting, everything all changes, all improves, and also, let's be honest, the world around us changes as well. I mean, this is the social media age. That wasn't the age when I was growing up. It's a completely different time for kids growing up now. They might look exactly the same on the surface, but kids is so different now. So even my even my birth son. I mean, he's very much social media. He's 17, but he was just born just before all that kind of stuff. So he's well into it. But the kids that are sort of 2010 onwards, they know nothing else. This is the world they live in, and it makes it trickier because there's a lot of outside influences that obviously are, shaping the way their world views.
Yeah.
Which you have to try and understand quickly as someone who doesn't know anything about it. You have to really try to learn that kind of stuff and again, empathise with what they're seeing. You just don't see it, you see. No.
So your birth son is 17 now, you say. So he was what, 12, 13 when you started fostering. What was it like for him? If there's anybody watching who's maybe got birth children and they're a little bit sort of concerned or about bringing foster children into the mix, what would you say to them?
Have conversations. Have lots and lots of really honest conversations. And if they don't want that, then they don't want that. You have to really take that seriously. You can't just we're very lucky with our son. He has no bandwidth for anything other than steam trains, so nothing bothers him. Honestly, it's we've even got it on video when he was 2 years old when the obsession started. Little did we know at that time, we just thought it was a cute video. I drive them all over the country now, just going to the heritage railways.
Oh wow!
But but we are looking at it, and he's very, we are really open with him. So he knew beforehand what we were thinking of possibly doing, and he had all the conversations. Obviously, the supervisor, socials, etc., are really, really good to go through the process. They all had conversations with him, real, and he could ask anything without our influence. We went around. He was in free space to say what he wanted. We encouraged him to say what he wanted. If he wasn't happy, say, and he was. And so, but yeah. So if you do have birth children, you have to be transparent about what could be happening in the future and how that could affect their space, their time with the parents, and with you. All that kind of stuff. But if you're transparent and it goes on, and if things don't work out, the system is in place where there's so many people involved that it's what's best for everyone, what's best for the children especially, that things will be adjusted. That's fostering. That's the reality. So but try and close as many doors before you start the journey. With any questions you have.
So if you were to think back to, before 2019 now, all those years that you sort of thought about being a foster carer and you talked about it. Well, I was going to ask, is being a foster carer now how you expected it to be?
Pretty much. Yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah, pretty much. It's more tiring than I thought it would be. I always say to people ask me about it all the time because you do. I call people who don't foster muggles. Use the Harry Potter sort of thing with it, because I was a muggle once. Because it is a different. You are stepping into a very, very different world, but a vital world for more and more people to get to step into. I would say what surprised me most is when people ask me what's it like, I say it's probably the hardest job I've ever had. I always use the term job. I don't look at it as a job; it's a vocation. But I say job because it's just easier to get across to people. It's the hardest job I've ever had, but it's also by far the most satisfying because the lows are low. When a child is low and hurting, you have to stay strong, but inside you're just breaking. I can feel it a little bit now. Because, I've had conversations with, I had one last night with one of the children. He's got sports day today and his anxiety levels are just through the roof. Now, normally, my son hated sports day, but I used to say to him, just do your best. If you finish last, just have some fun, do your best. And he'd be like, yeah, all right, I'll do that. That's, kind of like how they get through it. Don't like to get through it. Not in this case. It's a huge anxiety because this child likes to be the best at everything, but he's not the best if you go by a metric of like winning a race or not. and he won't be, because he just simply isn't. If you go by that standard. So I had the conversation I started. It was through the Spain France semi final. It was literally from start to finish. I got to the full time whistle, and the whole this conversation was going about sports day, how to try and manage his way through it. Try to give him some techniques to think about through it. And I don't think I got through in the end because it was just simply bedtime and he was just tired. He was that upset about it. But those are the kinds of things that that's just a little example of what these things can be like. These children have got lots of different. I mean, the other child in the house, he's got sports day as well today at the same school. Can't wait. And that's it. You look forward to his day? Yep, fine, that's it. It's a 10-second conversation. Last night, the other child was an hour and a half, and I'm not sure I actually got through. But I say that's just a little example. But the lows that you experience, the children go through, can be really, really low, and you have to be prepared for that. But the highs, the wins for the children are immense, because what could be seen as like an achievement, like for example, again using my birth son, achievement with him, it's like, oh, fantastic, well done, mate, and it's that, but it's just on another level when a child has got, say, low self-esteem or anything like that, and you see them for what they've done. They might not necessarily see it themselves at the time, but you see what they've done, what they've achieved. You just feel 10 feet tall, and and if you've had a tough day, say the day before with the children, it just refuels you for the next however long. That's it. It is. It's huge ups and downs, but
a real roller
that's
coaster.
Parenting full stop. But it's just like parenting kind of times 10. It's that's kind of what it's like. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you're doing an incredible job, Phil. Just finally, if anyone was watching, who's maybe sort of you before 2019, thinking about it, talking about it, but maybe not doing anything about it quite yet, what would you say to them? What would your advice be?
Make the phone call, because if you're thinking about it, it means you're at least curious. And the process is so extensive, and it's not like, if you just make a phone call, that's it, you're committed to anything like that. At least make the phone call, at least find out, at least just even start the process. You don't have to go through to the end of the process. But what you probably find out is if you're actually thinking about doing it, you probably want to. And if you can, you'll gradually go through that, and you'll probably end up being a foster carer. I would at least just make the phone call. Start the journey, and if you think no, after a couple of weeks this isn't for me, stop the journey, but just find out, actually find out for yourself if that's the right thing for you to do. Can't do you any harm.
No, not at all. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Phil. It's been fantastic talking to you, and it sounds like you're doing. Well, it sounds like you're doing an incredible job, and best of luck with the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Voices of Fostering. If you'd like to get involved in the conversation, we would love to hear your questions. Maybe there's something you'd really like to ask about fostering. Get in touch. You can email us on podcast@nfa.co.uk.